Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now. We're talking to Sydney Higginson, who is a third-year fifth grade teacher. She spends her days balancing lesson plans, classroom dynamics, and 1,000 other things that aren't necessarily in the written job description. She's taught students across the elementary school spectrum in a wide range of roles, from general education and summer school to robotics and tutoring, and is now pursuing her master's in education. In this conversation, Sydney is going to be talking about what teaching really looks like behind the classroom door. Today, our guest is Sydney Higginson, who is a teacher, and you teach fifth grade?
Yes.
And we have lots of questions for you, but can you talk about why you wanted to be a teacher?
I have lots of reasons, actually. One, I love school. I've
Wow.
always loved school, and which I know is sounds crazy, but I don't love it because of the homework and stuff. I love the routine of school and coming in every day, and it's different, and you get to see friends, you get to meet new people. So I like how school and education brings people together, and especially elementary school, actually. Elementary school is so fun. I have such fond memories of when I was in elementary school and back when education in school was less stressful.
I've heard how terrible it is in middle school and how much they are unhappy and they miss elementary school. But
Yeah.
so that, and you're also getting your master's, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, I am. That's new. I actually am in my first semester of my master's program now. I originally wanted to do it earlier, like right after I got my credential and in my first year's teaching, but turns out there's even more things you have to do to become a teacher before you can do all the other stuff. So it's like a never-ending like list of things to get certified, to get just everything you need to become a fully credentialed classroom teacher. It's a very
Yeah, I
long
was actually
process.
going to ask about that because there are so many steps. I remember one of my friends,
Mhm.
she went from a substitute teacher, which you didn't have to have, I think, really any credentials, but then, oh my God. And she
Yeah.
has also done a master's degree too. But can you
Yeah,
talk about that a little bit?
absolutely. For a sub, you only need a bachelor's degree and to pass this exam called the, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking on the test. Um, I think it's the basic skills test to become a teacher. But to become an actual teacher, you need to obviously have a bachelor's degree. You need to complete a credential program, which is usually a 2-year program, typically after getting your bachelor's degree. And with that, the teaching credential, you have to take 3 different exams that are really stressful and a lot to study for. And depending on what area of education you go into, for example, middle school or high school, if you want to be a math teacher, science teacher, language arts teacher, you only have to take the tests in that specialty, which actually is fewer tests, fewer exams. As an elementary school teacher, it's multi subject. So I had to do every single one, which is a lot. But I actually got pretty fortunate in my process. I did an accelerated program where I did a combined bachelor's degree and credential program at the same time, which looking back on it, I actually don't recommend it because that was a lot of work, and it's hard to work at the same time and be doing all of that, but because of that, I was actually able to get out of taking some of the tests, some of the exams, so it was a lot, but it kind of worked out in my favor. Anyways, after completing a credential program and having passed all of the exams and portfolios that you have to create, once you finally get a job in the classroom, you have to go through a program called induction. You have yeah, you have 5 years to complete this program. It's a 2-year program, and that's the program that gets you a clear credential. So once you do a credential program and you get your bachelor's, you only have a preliminary credential, which is only good for 5 years. And when you start teaching, you have to enroll in this induction program, which is 2 years. And if you don't do it within that first 5 years, you have to get, like, re-certified or something. I'm trying to avoid it. I think I'm okay, but I did not wanna go down that path, but, it's a lot. So after those 2 years, you are finally a cleared credentialed teacher.
You
Sydney,
know, like, signing up that this was going to be so much, it's kind of monstrous how much you have to do to be a teacher.
It is. I did not know, actually. I did not. I knew that there was a credential program, like most careers. If you wanna go down a certain path, you have to do, like, law school, med school, whatever. I get it. And I'm knew that there would be some exams involved, but the extra years afterwards to clear a credential, I didn't even know that there was a preliminary versus a clear credential. I just thought, "Boom, you had your credential. Boom, you can start teaching. Yay." But no.
Okay, and
Oh,
then
and also induction program, depending on what, district you work for, you also have to pay for it.
and
Yeah.
how expensive is that?
It can be, depending on which program you do and where you teach, it can be anywhere like $1,000, for the program, maybe more. I got lucky, my district paid for it, so I didn't have to pay for it. So, yay.
Yay, I guess. To kind of get away from sort of the arduousness of what it takes to become a teacher, can you talk about, like, have you had, like, a moment that you just thought was just the best moment of being a teacher, just a highlight of your experience?
Mhm. I have so many. I mean, overall, since it's been a long process, but I really love teaching. It's so fun. Like I said before, every single day is different, and I feel like the way I can like touch the lives of so many kids, it's so meaningful and impactful. And I've seen some kids coming into the school year with such tough situations. Either home life is hard, social life is hard, or they've been moving around so much. This is their first time in school, or and it's tough. And but seeing how kids can, like, grow throughout the school year and doing everything I can to help them feel comfortable and to be happy and to love school, even as much as I did too growing up. It's really awesome to see, and you just see them light up as soon as they finally have that, like, aha moment in class, and it's really fun to see it happen. Just a general reason why I love it. Um, I can give an example, though. I have um, my first year teaching, I had one student who, had gone through the foster care system, and it was actually her only and this was 5th grade. It was only their 3rd year in school. They didn't have
mm,
any of that before, and coming into 5th grade, she didn't know how to read,
Oh,
and that's really challenging, and, new school, also new friends or no friends. And the first few weeks were really rough. She was so isolated, didn't and by 5th grade too, all the kids have their own friends that they've known since kindergarten, and also it's that preteen age that's, um, all they care about is their friends and how they look to other people, and they're very self-conscious in 5th grade. Most of them, not all of them. Some of them should be more self-conscious, but but, um, but, yeah, I got really lucky. I had a couple of other really caring and kind students in my class that I had talked to and asked if they could kind of help this student out, and they ended up becoming best friends, and I was able to get her some resources at my school to like helpful tutoring sessions and interventions at my school, and by the end she had actually boosted her reading and math levels up like 2 grade levels, like, just in the time that she was in my class, and it just it was really cool seeing at the end of the year how much she had just grown just from being in school and having friends, and she just had a great time. It was really cool.
That's that is so heartwarming, and then I was going to ask the flip side of that. It seems like being a teacher is difficult. Um, I know from my experience, just, like, volunteering, I was like, "Oh my god, I hate parents." Um, well,
Yeah.
that I'm not in the classroom all day, but I'm wondering if you can talk about what has been the most challenging part of being a teacher?
Mm. There's a lot of challenges. I would say overall, juggling everything. It's not just my schedule as a teacher. All Each of these kids has their own schedules too, and the parents have schedules. The school has a schedule, and figuring out how to make everything work is so stressful. Um, but I would say one of the most challenging things is working with parents. Fortunately, this year, I feel very lucky. All of my parents have been so wonderful and supportive and accommodating this year. It's been great. But in years past, it's made my life so challenging, so difficult. Whether it's like complaining about things that their kids said happened and taking every single thing they hear their kids say for the truth instead of asking me about it, maybe going straight to the principal and filing complaints without even knowing the full story, and constant like emails even in like the wee hours of the morning too. Sometimes it's hard. I've learned to put it all away. I don't think about it. I silence all my notifications, especially my email, because I would take it home and it would stress me out at home, and
Yeah.
it just was really challenging.
Do you have
But
any
it
other way of dealing with all this chaos? I can't imagine what it'd be like to have someone questioning your job pretty much all day, every day.
Yeah, it's challenging, and it's also hard too because a lot of the times I feel like I have to kind of I don't know how to say this. Mm, the goal for me is always to make sure that the parent is happy too,
Oh, okay.
because having a parent who's frustrated and upset with the teacher the whole year is really a nightmare. So even when I know that a parent is wrong and maybe accusing me of something or other students of things, or I usually it's easier for me to just be like, "You know what? You're right. Let's move on. Like, let's try to find things to work on." But,
That's very zen
uh
of you, I'll say.
it's really hard to be the bigger person sometimes. But at the end of the day, I always try to remind parents that we're here to make sure that your kid feels safe and your kid gets an education, and we're working together on this. I don't wanna butt heads with anyone, so I'm very open with my families about communication. If they have a problem or they have questions, I want them to ask me. I'd rather them do that than listen to everything their child says and or listen to things they're hearing from other families, without getting the full picture. So, I
Say,
don't know if that
Sydney,
answers your question, but
Sydney, I had a question about what size classroom do you have?
mm, this year I have 29 students.
Is that typical for your classrooms in your district?
Yes, yes and no. I would say this is a pretty average size. The most I've had is 34.
Whoa,
Wow.
Yeah, 34 to 1 is
that's a lot.
Yes.
yeah, it's
How do you
challenging.
deal with having that many students? I mean, I think, you know, trying to divide your attention across that many kids could be also challenging.
It is. 100%, and it can be really frustrating, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I will not reach every single kid every single day.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad, but getting everyone's attention is almost impossible for every lesson. There's always something going on. Someone has to blow their nose, someone got a bloody nose, like, tripped, or someone lost their paper, and it's just ugh, getting to do one lesson is really challenging sometimes. Constant distractions, even if they are being perfect children, just like this, listening, could be anything. An announcement goes off, or someone's playing like Bill Nye next door and it's really loud. And they're like, what? Like, that's not fair. It all it's hard. I try my best to get everybody, and some days are harder for kids than others. Some kids, they come to school without having breakfast, or they're late, or they're really tired, or, um, they got into an argument with their friend at recess, so they're checked out right afterwards, and the management is hard, it's difficult, but it's something that I would say builds throughout the school year. It's always rough at the beginning, setting the tone for the classroom, getting them to understand that, okay, when we come in after recess, after lunch, we're it's all about business. We're getting our lessons done. We got to do this. We got to do that, especially in fifth grade because they're going to go to middle school next year. And it's kind of can't mess around there.
5th grade, there are certain as you said earlier, there's certain things they, are aware of, you know, being girls or boys, and then, also, there are hygiene issues.
Day one, I'm like, there's this wonderful thing called deodorant. You all should keep it in your backpacks because living in Southern California, it's sometimes chilly in the morning, and then after lunch, it's like really hot. Even now, it's the middle of oh my gosh, no, it's February now, but still winter.
It's still
It was 80
winter.
degrees today.
Yeah.
And, yeah, when they come in after lunch, the hoodies come off and my whole back room, I stay away from that side because it's just all, like, marinating back there.
God. Oh my oh,
Um, but no, I do really encourage that kids bring deodorant, that they wear it every day, before they come to school. Keep it in your backpacks if you need, and I also keep an extra change of clothes too for anyone, like, I
that's
have a
nice.
a T-shirt and um I also have feminine hygiene products also too for any girls who may be
Mm.
going through puberty and experiencing all those fun things.
Wow. There are so many
Yeah.
things to think about in 5th grade.
I know,
There is.
that's sort of on top of the actual curriculum too, of having to decide, like, what the lessons are. Tell Can you tell us a little bit about, like, how 5th grade is different from sort of the previous grades, like, in terms of
Mhm.
teaching?
Yeah, 5th grade is when I'll say it actually gets a lot more serious. It's definitely a big step up from the other grades. At least in California, we have standardized testing, at the end of every year, and it starts in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, students are tested in math and language arts, and it's like that in 4th grade as well, but in 5th grade, they do math, language arts, and science, and that's a accumulation of all the science they've learned in all of elementary school.
Yeah.
No pressure. And yeah, it's a lot of work and they have to, it's as 5th grade teachers, it's hard to get all the kids to remember everything they learned in that time. It's stressful. Oh, and, the the test scores that students get on these standardized tests reflect on the school also, and
Mm.
especially in 5th grade, more so than 3rd and 4th. They how the 5th graders do on their tests at the end of the year, their scores are at least for public schools, you can see how schools did on their test scores, and that really impacts whether parents will send their kids to those schools or not, and
Does that impact you as a teacher? Like, do they say, "Well, your scores were low, and we are going to do something to you"? Oh, if you don't know.
We're gonna do something to you.
Yeah.
Well, as staff members, all teachers in the whole school, we meet every week, and a lot of those meetings, we reflect on data and test scores from the year before and how we're doing. Um, well, right now we're in the middle of the year, so reflecting on the beginning of the year versus how it is now, and kind of making plans and preparations for the end of the year. It's a lot of data that is also intense and can be overwhelming, but that's everything we do is all to try to do better this year than last year. What improvements can we make? What worked? What didn't work? How can we make sure that the students are accessing the standards in the curriculum and lots of reflection. And if a teacher or a class doesn't do super well the year before, I mean, it could be a lot of factors that go into that also, just depending on the students you have that year. Like, for example, this year I have a lot of students that are gifted and highly gifted. So far, my test scores at the beginning of the year have been fairly high. But last year, a lot of my students were English learners and were working at a grade or two grade levels below fifth grade. So you really just don't know what kind of class you're gonna get. And that's something that we talk about in these meetings also is kind of comparing and what we can do to support all the students.
And what do you think would be the biggest shock to especially to parents about what a teacher has to do?
Actually, this might bring go into another topic, but all of my students have computers. They all have laptops.
Okay.
And I think what surprised them is some of their browser history in class. Some of the things that they're doing that they're trying to be sneaky and get away with things that they're really should not be looking at. And um, sorry, not necessarily like inappropriate things, but just like
Video games.
ridiculous things,
Yeah,
video games
yeah.
and
T
um, yeah, TikTok, YouTube, trying to do lots of things that they're not supposed to. So that's hard. And I think how how kids are with their friends too. That's one thing that I bump into issues with parents or conflicts, conflicting opinions. When I let a parent know, hey, just so you know, this is what your child said today. They're like, what? My child would never. Yeah, I think you heard wrong. Or I'm
Ugh,
like, no, no, this is
nope,
maybe a
no.
regular thing. I actually, um, oh my gosh, sorry, that made me think of another thing too. As a teacher, there's behavior issues that pop up every single day. There's kids that make mistakes or make poor choices in words and decisions or and if I messaged or sent something home to parents every single day about what their kid did, it would be insane. So for me to actually contact families, letting them know that, hey, this is an issue or this has been an issue, they're not learning from their mistakes. I think sometimes parents misunderstand that this is something that's been happening continuously. And I think they think that it's a one time thing. And they're like, oh, just give my kid a chance. Like, he won't do it again. I'm like, no, no, this has been going on like every day for a
For a
while.
while.
Yeah.
Oh my
So, yeah, kids act and behave very differently in school than they do at home, I would say. A lot of them.
yeah.
Sydney, I was sort of thinking about that because you talked a lot about the different things that you deal with in a given day. Can you talk a little bit about what your typical day looks like, beginning to end?
Oh. Mhm. Absolutely. My day starts usually around 7:30. That's when I try to get to school. I need about a half an hour of quiet zen time to prepare for the day, get everything lined up for my lessons in the day. Then at my school, the bell rings at 7:59, which is oddly specific, but That's when it starts. I usually immediately take my class out on the yard. I find for me and for 5th graders, the best thing I can do is for them to get their energy out, like, right away. So I will do about a half hour of PE time. I usually let kids run some laps. I'll have some game planned. Either we're doing handball today, we're doing basketball today, we're some sport. And we'll do that for about a half hour and we'll come back into class. I'll have a every morning it's a soft start. And what I mean by that is students come in quietly. I have a few activities for them to work on and it's usually something that's independent, something they can get done on their own that they know how to do. It's just quiet work time for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And after that, we'll go into if we don't have a special for the day, like library or theater or music, we will go straight into math. I like doing math early in the day when they're still awake. And 5th grade math is challenging. We do everything from multiplying and dividing decimals and multiplying, dividing fractions and all sorts of things, and it can be really challenging for some kids. So getting it done in the morning is pretty helpful. Then the kids go out to recess. That gives me about a 20-minute break to go make copies or go to the restroom, do anything I need to, finish my coffee. When we come back, I always start with language arts and we do all sorts of things. We do some reading, sometimes we'll focus on vocabulary, but in 5th grade, it's mostly comprehension. Just being able to understand what you're reading is really big, and that's something that most kids are tested on in this grade level. And then we like to do writing afterwards. In 5th grade, we're writing 5-paragraph essays. In 5th grade, we usually do at least 3 essays, and it's a long process. We write a, narrative, so either a personal narrative where they can tell a story. Right now, we're writing an informational essay. In my class, where they get to choose an animal of whatever they want, and they get to write about it, which is really cool.
Okay.
Uh-huh, and then at the end, we do an, opinion or an argumentative essay, which they love to do because 5th graders love to argue. Um, so it's fun, and then they have lunchtime. My lunch is about 40 minutes. Yeah, I usually do have enough time to actually eat my lunch and actually have a real break, but there's so many times where a kid will come in crying, and I have to go help do something, and I don't actually get a break. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, we'll either do social studies or science. Science in 5th grade is also a lot. So we do astronomy, all stars and the universe, and we do a lot of earth science too. Right now, we're learning about the water cycle and how matter cycles and ecosystems and food chains, all that fun stuff. But it can become a lot. So on top of doing the 5th grade science, we also have to reteach things that they had learned or were supposed to have learned in 4th and 3rd grade and 2nd grade so they can be prepared for the end of the year. And I always try to end with something easy, either more independent time or depending on how long the day was, I'll let the kids go play outside for a little bit too, because it's a long time that we're just working and trying to get things done. It's a lot to plan and make sure that that gets done by the end of the year.
When does your day end?
I say goodbye to the students at 2:22, which is also very specific, but um I'm required to stay until I want to say like 3:30 or 3:20, something like that. I always stay way later though, so I never am worried about that. I always have so much to do afterwards. But I actually on top of that, I do a lot of, other stuff. I do after school tutoring. Right now, I'm doing robotics, a robotics club after school, and a math gifted group called Math Kangaroo, and lots of extracurriculars. It's sounds like a lot, but it really I do get paid for it, and that helps a lot. So,
Did you
what
study
about you?
science then or math in particular? I mean, because you seem to be focused in some of the activities after school in those areas, so you must have an interest.
I do enjoy it, actually. I do love science, it's so fun. And building things, doing the robotics is really cool. I did specialize with getting my credential, I specialized in, sciences, so that
Oh,
helps. But it's really fun, and I enjoy doing it. It's a lot with the kids. It's those little things that also really make elementary school really cool. Getting these opportunities to, "Oh, I get to go build a robot. Oh, I get to go do this competition and do these cool things outside of school," which a lot of times kids don't get to do until they're in high school when they can join a sports team or something like that. So I think it's really cool.
wow. I think
Mhm.
I'm tired just listening to you talk about what day is like for you. But
I was just gonna ask, so, because she has such a passion for teaching and in particular elementary school, so think back to your 10-year-old self. What did you wanna be when you were 10?
Actually, I think I did wanna be a teacher. It was either like a teacher or like an Olympic gymnast or some crazy professional athlete of a sort. I loved sports when I was a kid. I was super athletic. I always did all the sports at PE any chance I could. So, it was between those 2 things. At the time, I don't know why I wanted to be a teacher. I think it was I just liked telling people what to do. So and I thought, "Wow, being a
right.
teacher sounds great."
I have one
But
last
obviously that has changed now.
Yeah, I have one last question.
Mhm.
What key skills do you think are required to be a good teacher these days?
Mhm. I would say patience. You need a lot of patience. I would say also good time management. It can become very overwhelming, and especially when you have students and you're waiting on them to do certain things too. The time management and the patience, and you just have to be caring. There's a lot else that goes on that you end up having to do. I feel like I have to take on so many roles with this job. I think especially as an elementary school teacher, I feel like I'm aside from a teacher, I feel like I'm a nurse, I'm a mom, I'm also like a guidance counselor and also a maybe even like a dean too sometimes. So it's so I think if you can just go into it being a kind, caring, patient person, it's it's a good job. But it's
Sounds
hard
yeah.
for a lot of people. But yeah.
Yeah. I know that during the pandemic, I got to listen to one of my kids' teachers teaching, and she was not kind or nice. And that was such a wake up call.
Yeah,
But it's so good to talk to you. Thank you, Sydney, and best of luck. You know?
thank you.
So, what I thought was most interesting about talking to Sydney was how much education they have to do.
I know, I wasn't expecting that. I
Yeah,
mean, I got the impression that from people I know in the past, like, that would just have to go and get a degree, then they take their certification test, the state test, whatever that is that
mhm,
they're
yeah,
required to, and that's, like, after they've done, like, hours in the classroom or whatever like that, but she
mhm.
really told us a lot about what is required today.
Yeah, it just seemed like you're going to school all the time.
Well, I think that's probably true anyway, because I think even now the way they teach things like math, for example, I don't even understand how they teach math now. I mean, when we learned math, it was like totally different. It's sort of like almost they're learning theory at very young ages. I mean, fifth grade was kind of a pivotal year.
Yeah, And so that's what she's in charge of. So, and she's getting her master's, which apparently leads to better pay.
Yeah, well, in general, the idea is that if you get more schooling, pretty much in any job, you would likely get higher pay.
But they don't get paid, the bottom of the barrel, at least in California.
No, California actually gets the highest paid for teachers. When I was looking at the information from the National Education Association, there are certain states where you can get paid a lot higher than the average teacher salary, and that's California, Washington, New York, DC, and Massachusetts.
I wouldn't think DC would be on the list, but yay.
Yay for the people who live in DC.
Yay.
The average range is like 46,000 to 100,000 plus annually. The average is anywhere between 59,000 to 72,000, if you look at any general, place in the US.
The thing that I don't understand, because maybe people are having fewer kids and that's why it's happening, but there's a decline in the demand for teachers.
Well, I think yes. I know certain school districts are, I mean, even Los Angeles, if you think about when we were here in college, there were
Mhm.
700,000 students in the LA school district. Today, it's 450,000.
Wow.
And so I think some of that is declined from not many families coming in. If there's less immigration, there's less people, kids, there are less kids being born in general too. But that's not to say that the jobs aren't available. I mean, people are still retiring. Some people decide after a little bit they don't want to be a teacher anymore and they move on to another type of job. So there's
Mhm.
always going to be a need for teachers. And I think possibly even depending on where you are, certain types of subjects like science and math.
Yes. And also it seems I really haven't sussed out what type of personality wants to be a teacher. But because it's a little bit extrovert, a little bit introvert. It's a lot about nurturing, it's a lot about organization. There's a lot of elements being a teacher.
Specifically for, I think, 5th grade, because that's what we talked about, and some of that spills probably into other grade levels, younger grade levels, because we are talking elementary. The kids are younger, so they need a lot of support. They need a lot of understanding. So,
Mhm.
pr patience patience is probably the biggest thing, and I think
Patience.
Sydney talked about that.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're not necessarily specifically extrovert or introvert. I think those both play very nicely, because you have multiple kids in the room. But I think just being very organized is really helpful because, I mean, if you have, like, 29 kids in the classroom,
Oh my
how do you
god.
give them each individual
Part-time.
attention. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's what they're needing. And then some kids don't need it as much because they're a little more advanced academically, but it's really a lot of the social and emotional development that happens here that I think you have to be really attuned to that. So the emotional intelligence has to be pretty high, regardless of what your own personal personality profile is.
Yeah. This seems like a difficult job,
I
but
would think
by any
so.
standard.
I think that being a teacher is really sort of misunderstood in some ways because I even think teachers feel like sometimes maybe they're considered babysitters because they're with the
Yes.
kids all day long, but
Oh,
babysitting is sort of like, "Okay, you go watch TV or, play some games or whatever." But the teaching part, I think to get the kids to really understand the subject matter can
mhm.
sometimes be very difficult, or you might have behavioral problems in your classroom.
Yes.
So, I I don't think maybe parents or others don't really see the value as much of what they bring to the table when they're having to deal with these kids. I mean, anywhere from understanding psychology, therapy, counseling, communications, all of the technology they have to know now. I mean,
Yes.
back then it was just for us, it was like, what was it? The
Chalkboard.
the lamp, the chalkboard, and then
Oh,
the
yes. The
overlays on
projector.
a film projector
Yeah.
and all this. Now it's all computerized. I mean, even my kid's classroom is, everything's done with computers.
Yeah.
And, so it's just such a different time period, but I think that it's just a hard job in general. I think other countries are really somewhat better at valuing teachers or the teaching profession than we do. So, I
Yes.
say kudos to teachers because I didn't understand how difficult it was till I started volunteering in my kids' classroom.
Yeah, and I did that too, and, oh, it's awful.
It can be really challenging. You've got
Yeah.
so many of these kids with, different personalities, but I was really, really happy to hear that she has such a passion that
Yeah.
even as a 10-year-old, she was thinking about being a teacher. And I sort of the only reason I asked that question was because I think I've heard that when you're around 10 years old, you kinda know, or at least
Mm.
start seriously thinking about what you're interested in becoming. And some people realize that when they're older, whatever their 10-year-old dream was. So I'm almost wondering about every single person we start to interview, like, what did they wanna become when they were 10? Because
Yeah.
that might be a window into, like, what you kind of pursue later. Mine didn't come true, though,
Oh,
so
no.
it's
What was
okay.
yours? What was
I wanted
yours
to be a
for
I wanted to be a pop star.
10?
So
Oh,
my 10-year-old self will continue to just sing, in my
in the
memory,
shower?
and then we're doing this podcast, so I feel I feel like that's semi-realized.
Like, singing, but not.
Yeah, just we're still on the radio, so I guess
There
that
you
counts.
go. Okay. You got it.
Yep.
I think we have determined that being a teacher is very difficult, and neither of us wants to do
Yeah.
it.
I'm okay with my kids' teachers doing it for us.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.